Welcome to the Morning Show studios today at WRCO. It's a pleasure to be here to talk about 4PeteSake and the Day in the Park coming up this Sunday already. Joining us in the studio, you'll hear the stories of Troy Vanderheiden, and you'll also hear about Irene and Michael Hilston's story. But we're going to start with Todd Miller, who's been with us all these years to talk about 4PeteSake. Good morning, Todd.
Good morning.
Good to have you in here with us today.
Thanks for having us.
Yes. And I think your microphone might be off there. If you want to reach on the top there and switch on the... Well, there you go. I told you I needed a good engineer.
All right. Well,
so you're hired.
You getting a signal yet?
Yeah, you're there.
Okay.
We'll blame Henry. He was cleaning in here. He might have bumped that. So.
Okay.
Oh, so good to see you again. Here we are again with 4PeteSake. Has it been a good year for fundraising?
So we are off to a good start this year, yes. So it's, we should be able to top things off on the Day in the Park. We usually hope for about $40,000 in revenue. So that'll put us over the top if that's what happens.
You have fundraisers throughout the year, though, don't you?
Well, we've got a golf outing in September, but otherwise the Day in the Park has been it. People contribute is throughout the year, memorials and in honor of and things like that. And we do some of our fundraising early for sponsorship of some of our events, like the Rum Walk, Pickleball, Bike Ride. So, but not any other events in those two. So.
In terms of a need, there's a need year-round, isn't there?
There's a need year-round, and when we initially started, we only had one funding round. And it was all focused, it was based upon one individual. And then as we developed it, we had one funding round in the spring. And then we'd get through the summer event, and there'd be people who needed help then. And it's like, well, we have money now, but, next spring, are they going to make it to next spring? Okay, so we started a fall funding round, I think around 2010, and we've managed to do two funding rounds. So we have decided, based upon the fundraising so far this year, that we will be doing a fall funding round. And we'll be taking applications through September 30th for that. And then we'll have an interview date that we haven't set yet in October to review applications and then help people out. So if you go to 4PeteSake.com, you can download an application, or you can request one at P.O. Box 577 in Spring Green, and we'll get an application out to you.
Could you give us a little history lesson about 4PeteSake and how it started?
Well, there was a young man named Peter Greenwood who was very athletic and in high school, and he was having some pain, and they diagnosed it eventually as cancer. And so they ended up having to do a partial amputation to try to get rid of the cancer. And so he was hoping that he could, remain active and get an athletic prosthetic leg. And this is around the time where the Gulf War made prosthetics much more popular. They were much more plentiful down the road than they were back then. So this was a $45,000 question. And so we managed to do enough to raise enough money to do that. There was a variety of little fundraisers around the community. And then the Day in the Park, which was the first year we did it. And we made enough money to get him his leg. And then we had money left over. And we talked with the family, and they decided that this should go on, and pay it forward. So we've been able to do it ever since. And if there was ever a time where people just didn't need help anymore, well, then we wouldn't need to do it. And we're under the umbrella of Christ Lutheran Church as an official committee of the church. So it's a 501c3, but the committee is non-denominational, and it's just been a group effort ever since. So Peter, last I heard, still lives in Canada, and he has a kid and a wife, and he's doing all right. So, and the prosthetic leg, wore out years ago. So he's had a variety of different things that he's used, but he ended up doing a marathon on one of those special bikes, where you sit down and you pedal, and did that in New York City, and so it worked out okay. And of course, it doesn't always work out that way, but it's nice to see that Peter's been able to thrive. So
Do you have any idea how many people, how many families you've helped since it began?
We've helped just over 125 households since then. You know, could it be an individual or it could be a family, and we've distributed about $1.6 million in assistance since then. So it's kind of a small miracle to us that we've been able to raise those kind of funds over the years, because you know we're recipients are limited to the geographical area of the River Valley School District, and so there's only about 10 or 11,000 people, and that's a fair amount of money to raise from a population that small. So we've been blessed. That's gone in our favor. So
very impressive. When someone comes in, or if they need funds, is there a set amount that they can get, or does it vary per person?
It's not a set amount. You know, it's not really a competition. So I know Grace, you know, has a flat amount, which is an easy way to make a decision. You know, and they can do it more often, I think, because of that. But for us, it's like, well, what can we do that's going to impact the household? And a lot of times, you know, we're focused on how can you stay in your home and not have to worry about, you know, am I going to be late on my mortgage? Am I going to not pay rent and I'm going to be kicked out of where I live? You know, is there food in the home? Is there transportation available? That kind of thing. So just the basic everyday things that kind of get turned upside down when you've had an illness that undermines your ability to, you know, make a wage, or extra expenses that you just can't afford.
Sure. And it's not just cancer, it's any kind of dilemma.
A medical condition. Yeah.
Or I know you've had some that were injured possibly and needed some help and those kind of things.
And sometimes people make it back, you know, and sometimes things just happen. You just don't know. You wake up one day and your whole world's turned upside down. So
maybe you can say a word about this year's recipients. You have them in the studio before we introduce them today.
Well, Troy Vanderheide is one of our recipients this year, and he can tell you his story about doing home dialysis and stuff and what led up to that. And then Irene and Michael Hilston are here. Steve Hilston, the husband and father, passed away pretty suddenly after the catastrophic event, and they can explain to you what that was.
Good.
So it was.
We'll introduce you to him then.
Okay.
So thanks, Todd. We appreciate that. How about Troy Vanderheiden first? You've drawn the short straw, so we'll make you go first here today.
Okay.
So nice to meet you. Could you tell us a little bit about your story, Troy?
Well, first off, I'm been diabetic for over 43 years, and I think a lot of the issues is from the diabetes. And I had a triple bypass in March of 2020. And then as time went on, or since 2020 even, my kidneys have slowly decreased, and now I'm in stage 5 kidney disease. So now we are trying to do home dialysis between my clinic, which is Fresenius in Madison, and try to get what they call a fistula done in my arm, and what they call buttonholes. They're small, but it's where they would insert 2 different needles, one ingoing, one outgoing. But we haven't been able to get it established for quite some time now. It's been a good almost 8 months. We've been trying to hack away at it. But I do have a catheter in my chest where we can do home dialysis, and that's what we're doing now. We were trained through the clinic, my wife, and she is not a nurse, but she is a very outstanding care partner. I don't know what I would do without her.
Yeah.
And she helps me with the home dialysis, getting set up, and then everything, and she's just there. I mean, she works a full-time job, and when she was on third shift, we were doing training in Madison and traveling there and back, and that was when she was on third shift. And she would spend, between the time we drive to Madison, get dialysis and training, and come back, it's about a good 7 hours, roughly. So I consider my wife has 2 full-time jobs. She really does. She's incredible. So we've been trying to hack away. Right now, we've took a break from the fistula. We are trying, again, we are doing home dialysis. I am not on the kidney transplant list yet. I got a couple things I need to accomplish before they'll put me on the list.
So you're working toward that.
That is my goal. Mm-hmm. It really is. I really would love to. I mean, I don't consider myself old. I mean, if someone looks at me, they're going to be like, well, nothing wrong with him, but I'm going to be 59 later this month, and I really don't consider myself old. And I now have 6 grandkids. I have 6 kids, 6 grandkids, and there's a couple more that might have kids down the road when, they get married and so forth. In fact, of my 6 kids, it was a girl, my oldest son, younger son, a girl. And my oldest son just called me on Sunday and said, they're going to go to the courthouse to get married. They're the first ones to get married out of all my kids. So pretty proud they had to apply for it, and it's going to take about a week. So probably sometime either late this week or early next week, I'll be a witness to it and everything, which I'm proud of them. And there's nothing wrong with even doing a courthouse one,
Sure.
with today's economy.
Absolutely. Congratulations on that.
Yeah, so, thank you.
You got a lot to live for. You got a lot to strive for.
And that's what I'm trying to get at is, I'm not really old. I mean, I would love to get a kidney transplant. And I was told when I was in the hospital, first starting dialysis, that people that need like a double transplant tend to get them quicker than someone that needs a single one. So I'm kind of looking for a liver and a pancreas. And it would be, you can't imagine how lovely it would be not to have to give yourself shots every day. And, back then it was poke your fingers and getting the glucose levels and so forth. I mean, from day one, I was 15 when I started this.
My goodness. They've made a lot of strides in those kind of things, though, now.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they got CGMs, which I got one on my arm, and it's right to my phone. It says what it is, and, shows how it's been going, which is good. But it would be awesome just to have a break from that, even if it was 5 years, 5 months. But that would be awesome also, along with the kidneys. So.
Right. Well, you have some goals. You'd like to hang out with the family, hang out by the lake. And
exactly. That's exactly what I was going to say. Is like some point in time, maybe we get a cabin on a lake and we can all hang out and everything. I mean, I love my family, and I just wish we were able to spend more time. And I understand, all the kids, they got busy lives. I understand. But, just once in a while, we can just all get together and hang out. So, and get to see all the grandkids would be awesome. Mm-hmm. So it's like, yeah, I do have goals, and deep down, I hope it happens. But I hate to say this, but in the long run, I hate to say it, but I kind of am accepting what might happen if I don't get a transplant.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, it's just trying to get a grasp on it, and just there's days I worry. And my youngest is special needs. She's 18. And she will need assistance the rest of her life. She's just cognitively delayed. So that I worry about. What's going to happen to me? I'm 9 years older than my wife. So, and we all know, because of age, it's usually the older ones that go before the younger, normally. So it's where if something happens to me, how are they going to be? Are they going to be able to survive? And so forth, and what kind of care? It's hard to find someone for special needs. It really is. We do have some really true good friends. Was our old neighbors in Arena. Became very, very good friends. And they love Kira. I mean, Kira loves them from back when she was 5-6 years old. I remember they would come home from somewhere and we'd be outside, and here she is. She's taking off over the neighbors, So
that's what happens in the small town. And
yeah,
and you've got 4PeteSake. Did you ever think that you might be getting a call from 4PeteSake? Or
my wife started the process. She really thought, maybe this is something we can do, and I can't say enough for Pete's sake. They have helped us over the last 6 months extremely. It has enabled us to breathe, and we've are able to get some stuff done on our vehicles that we haven't really had the money for because it was so tight and with our rent and everything, and that's always been our biggest worry is the rent. That's the first thing we make sure we pay, of course, because we got to have a place to live.
Yes.
And it's hard to find anything reasonable. I mean, I'm not saying that rent's reasonable, but we're trying to survive, and Pete's sake has been there for us since, like I said, at least a good 6 months. I want to say back, April?
Yeah,
roughly?
March, I think.
March,
did
yeah.
Spring funding round. So, yeah.
Yeah.
And,
So,
and you'll be eligible also to apply again because you can get up to 2 funding rounds. So we can reassess things as we go into the fall.
yes.
But yeah, and it has made a difference.
It has.
You even were able to get out and do a little camping.
In fact, we're going up to the Dells on the 20th.
There you go.
Through the 24th. And might have a little bit of family. My brother-in-law will be there. He lives in Baraboo. Because we're going up in the Dells. Next Thursday. So, do some camping, get away.
Yeah. Important to do that, isn't it?
Yeah, we love the camp and everything. So, Pete's sake has done a lot for us. And, yes, I do have goals. And I really hope to get these goals taken care of. My hope was by the time I turn 60. I really, really am. I mean, starting to get the gray and everything else. And, so I really want to spend time with my family. That's my biggest goal.
Yeah. I hear you. That's everybody's goal, I think. And and 4PeteSake helping you out, Troy. Thanks for telling your story.
Thank you.
We'll come back to you in a little bit here.
Yes,
Let's
thank
take
you.
time out, and we'll hear the story about Irene and Michael and more about 4PeteSake's Day in the Park coming up this Sunday. For Pete's sake, our Our subject today on the morning show from WRCO, the great cause, and again, the Day in the Park is coming up on Sunday. You've heard stories before in our morning show, and thanks again to Troy for being our guest, Irene and Michael Hilston, next up here this morning in the morning show studios. Irene, good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Good to have you in the studio with us today.
Thank you.
So tell us a little bit about your story, if you would.
Okay. Well, the story involves my husband, Stephen Hilston, and what happened with Steve is that he had an undiagnosed abdominal aortic aneurysm, and it suddenly started leaking. It was called encased, and it happened when he was at work. And long story short, we ended up getting the ambulance brought to our house, and they transported him to Sauk Prairie Hospital, and he was there for just maybe a couple hours. Yep. They did x-rays, and they found that he had the aneurysm leaking in his abdomen. So they contacted UW, and then he had to quickly get to UW because
Very quickly, unfortunately.
They said he wasn't going to survive unless they did surgery immediately. So what happened from there is that he did go in. UW was ready for him, and he had the surgery. Surgery was 8 hours to repair that aneurysm. But what happened from there is when that aneurysm started leaking, it started throwing microclots throughout his whole body, and it started going through all the tiny little blood vessels everywhere. And normally, if you have a clot, it's not going to do that. It's going to be a bigger clot. It'll go through bigger vessels. But he threw microclots because he had a high cholesterol level, which was also undiagnosed. We did not know that.
Yeah, it was called cholesterol emboli syndrome. And I remember how the doctor described it is when you open up the aneurysm, it's supposed to be like coagulated blood, like almost like a jelly. So, mind you, they're kind of going in blind for his surgery. So they're, it's going to be routine. I'm just going to cut it open, remove the clots, blah, 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 run of the mill. But when he cut it open, the best way, I just remember like the doctor looking at us, and he was still at the time very confused. He said, so I opened it up and it was like sand in there. And he was still, even the doctor was like kind of confused. He had a feeling what it could have been, but wasn't 100% too sure. That's why they went to UW-Madison, and, best surgeons, especially cardiovascular, which now is considered with my dad at that point, to get it, looked over by some of the best surgeons. And that's when they found out it was called cholesterol emboli syndrome, and which kind of threw everything for a loop, because again, at the time when we found out what was happening with my dad was just, the aneurysm, that's easily fixable. But now with this cholesterol emboli syndrome, it changed the entire dynamic of everything, of even like what we were expecting, but also the doctors.
Yeah. What happened is because it threw all those microclots, my husband did not have circulation to all different parts of his body. Namely, the first one that got hit really hard was his legs. So he had no circulation there. So after the 8 hours surgery for the aneurysm, they had to go in and, what is it called? The fascia?
Yeah, fascia or something like that.
Something like that. But anyway, they had to go in and open up his legs and try to pull what clots they could see out and try to encourage that circulation. But that was 4 hours. So we're looking at a total of maybe 12 plus hours that he was without circulation through many parts of his body. So he ended up, long story short, he ended up losing his legs. The circulation did not make him come back, and they started dying. So, and that was roughly, 2 weeks?
Yeah, and they had
2 weeks after.
The burn care unit coming in because, they had to like cut open his legs and stuff like that. They had to see if his legs would adapt to the new skin because the blood circulation was not there. So they're hoping by increasing, like with the fasciota,
blood flow.
like cutting open the legs, and when it expand, then you would put the new skin over it, and hoping that it would adapt. And they did it for I can't even remember how long, but eventually we realized that it was not gonna happen.
Yeah, it was about 2 weeks that he had to take, they were taking care of his legs with the burn care unit, trying to regenerate the skin and all the blood vessels. But his legs did start dying, everything started turning black. And he was facing having a bilateral leg amputation for both legs, which he was aware of, that he was going to have to do that and he would be a paraplegic. But at least he would be alive and he would be able to come home and be with his family and his grandkids, So he, agreed to have that done. Went through the surgery like a champ.
Mm-hmm.
Mind you, this is very painful, everything with him. So he was on a lot of medication to keep him comfortable because of the pain that he was going through. So he went through the bilateral leg amputation, and we were still, and the doctor said, this is such a rare case. And that was the head of UW surgery.
Dr. Gretchen Schwarzy.
Dr. Schwarzy from UW.
I have to give a shout out to her. Just truly an amazing human being. So incredibly intelligent, so incredibly empathetic. Honestly, with all of the doctors combined, I'm so incredibly thankful. I wish, of course, my dad was still here, and I know, UW themselves wish my dad was still here, but it's still with their support. It made the transition so much easier for us.
So
Even though
he had good care, obviously.
Extremely good care.
Yeah, he had
extremely good care.
Like dozens or so surgeons on him. So, but anyway, so it was the waiting game, because this case with my husband was so rare that Dr. Schwarzy even said in her 24 years as a vascular surgeon and the head of UW vascular surgery, she'd never ever seen this case before. It's very rarely recorded. Most people don't survive. So they did not know what to expect so far as the rest of his body, how it was going to respond with such blood loss and all the different organs. So he lost his legs first, and the next thing was his kidneys. They went, and then he was going to be on 24-hour dialysis. So we're thinking, okay, well, we can deal with that.
We made all the accommodations. My dad's not going to be happy. And I know him, he would not have been happy too, that we would have to drive him there and stuff like that. But of course we were
for dialysis.
We were gonna make those
if he got out, when he got out,
And it we were gonna make those accommodations, but it was just kind of like Troy said, there's just roadblocks. It just seemed like, okay, we're gaining some momentum. Okay, it's not good, but it's not so bad. But then now the news, by the way, Steve, your kidneys are dying.
Yeah.
It's not exactly something that, you can prepare for it, but it's just hearing those words is what just kind of makes it sink in a little bit deeper.
Yeah. The one really sad thing is that, he went through the leg amputation, then the kidneys started dying, and, then he's on 24/7 dialysis while he's at the hospital. And like I said, all these micro clots that got thrown landed in so many different areas of his body, but it did not land in his brain. He was fully aware of everything that was happening around him, which was really sad because, he had to go through a lot of acceptance of going to be a paraplegic. Okay, now I'm going to be on dialysis, So he wasn't in the hospital very long. He was in there for 30 days exactly. So after his kidneys failed, the pancreas started dying.
And that was the biggest red flag because, again, you can get a kidney transplant. You can get other type of transplants. But as soon as, that pancreas started to die, because that's, your body needs the pancreas. And the bad thing about with my dad's pancreas dying is that not only was it dying, but again, like
the necrotic tissue was leaking.
It was leaking out, and again, just how the body is designed. Pancreas was near my dad's aneurysm, and because they had fixed that, those enzymes from the pancreas were eating away at the stent.
So the stent in the
we had, again, it was either my dad would bleed out because, again, this is the aortic aneurysm. Just the aortic artery.
Yeah, so
he would bleed out extremely quick. I think the doctors even said themselves, like, they literally cannot do anything if that happens. Like, he would bleed out so fast that, like, you can't keep pumping blood into him because it's just going to be coming out. And then because of the enzymes as well, it's just eating away at it. It's either the pancreas is just going to die by itself, and that would be excruciating, or my dad's going to bleed to death.
Yeah, it was like every day something was happening. It went from the leg amputation to the dialysis, and then the other thing was his GI tract started dying.
Oh, yeah. He had some internal bleeding.
Yeah, he had internal bleeding. His GI tract started dying. And one day he had 4 units of blood given to him because he lost 4 units of blood that day.
And I think it was like 3 at night, and then they did one. They found out it was 1 more.
Yeah.
And mind you, he's monitored 24/7.
Yeah.
And they're still pumping blood and also doing dialysis. So he is getting taken care of. It's just his body, there's a net loss of blood throughout the entire process. And my dad's body was fighting so incredibly hard.
Sure.
So the surgeon called us after the pancreas started going. The surgeon called us and said, we need to have a family meeting. So we had to gather up the whole family, the daughter and son-in-law and the grandkids from Georgia came up. And they were up here for almost the whole 30 days that he was in the hospital.
Basically.
So they ran home and got the grandkids and brought him back. And we had a family meeting, and all the 12 different surgeons and doctors joined us, excuse me, and explained to us that Steve was dying. He was actively going to die, and there was nothing that they were going to be able to do about it. Because if that aneurysm or the stent was compromised from the pancreatic fluid that was necrosis, was leaking out, he would be gone overnight. It could happen any time. And they said he was actively, dying. And they had my husband awake for that meeting. So he was fully informed, and he knew that he was going to be dying. Time element, they said very soon. And it was. That
November of last year, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
And
November 14th.
It was in the process after this had begun that you came to 4PeteSake and applied.
Yes.
So Steve was still alive when you had applied.
Correct.
But I remember the story is he came home early from work because he thought he had a backache.
Yes.
And then
he
they
did.
took him by ambulance to the hospital, and just like that,
How life changed.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I still vividly remember where I was during
he was,
all
I bet.
doing some landscaping work at the hotel where he'd been employed for 25 years. Nothing really, kind of out of the ordinary, what he was doing that day. But he thought he just threw his back out, so his boss brought him home. And he took a look at him when you were getting him out of the truck with his boss. And I looked at him, and he couldn't walk. He couldn't feel his legs at all. And I'm like, this isn't your back, Steve. Something's worse than that.
Go ahead.
I said, I'm calling the ambulance. You've got to go now, because he asked me to take his shoes off, and he couldn't even feel me touching his feet, taking his shoes off.
The best way to actively describe how my dad was. I hate making the comparison, but just picture a zombie. Like, his legs were just dragging. And mind you, I've seen him hurt his back before. Like, anyone that's ever had a back issue, you know how it feels. But the way that he was walking, I was like,
He couldn't lift
that is... I just... Red flags just immediately shot up.
Yeah.
And I just looked at my mom. I was like, we just didn't even say anything. We just like kind of just looked and we're like, yeah.
It's go time.
Yeah.
You know. And of course he was like, no. I'm like, too bad.
It's my
Too bad.
back. It's my back.
And,
Yeah,
living
it's
in a
not.
small community and thankful that we have such volunteers with our firefighters and our EMTs. They were at my house within 3 minutes.
Yes, they were
kid you not.
insanely fast.
They were at the house immediately after we called and prepping to try to get him out of the house, because they didn't know what they were dealing with so far as carrying him out and moving him, and they were on the phone with Sauk Prairie and I think UW too.
I believe so.
Yeah, because they weren't sure on, well, I shouldn't say they weren't sure, just how to transport him because we're not sure what was going on with the back. Didn't want to do any more further damage, but it wasn't his back at all.
Yeah.
So anyway, but what we learned out of this is that aneurysms are genetic. So that is kind of where Michael and I are at now, is that we want to preach to people that if you have a family history of anybody that has had problems with aneurysms, died from an aneurysm, had to have a surgery for an aneurysm, it is genetic and you need to be tested. You need to have a CT scan done by age 50. This is all what UW, Gretchen Schwarzy, told us. And she looked at Steve's brother and sister and she said, you guys are over 50, you need to go in for a scan now. And that would mean the same thing for Steve's children. They all need to have scans when they hit age 50 because that's when they will start happening. These aneurysms will start coming around.
So you live in the small town. I know Steve did a lot as far as volunteering and
Yes.
food pantry, and now it's, the tables have turned a little bit where
They have.
For Pete's Sake is coming to help.
Yeah, well, we've been with the food pantry volunteering there for 15 years. And I'm actually now the president on the board of directors for the food pantry.
And I'm the Secret Service for her.
Yeah.
That's important.
My Secret Service team. But, that was the thing is that when this all happened with Steve, we were just up in arms. We didn't know what was going to happen with him. Is he going to come home?
Every day was a guessing game.
We're going to have to make modifications to the house and change things because now he's going to be a paraplegic and, dialysis.
We had to get a ramp for the house.
Everything
make
was
things
happening.
larger in the house to accommodate a wheelchair.
We didn't know how we were going to deal with any of this financially. And Heather at the food pantry, she said to Michael and I, Irene, you need to apply for Pete's Sake and get some help because you're going to need it. Your income is changing. You're not going to have Steve's income from him working anymore. And we were worried if we were going to make the mortgage payment. Are we going to keep the lights on?
Yeah, we had just bought the house.
Yeah. So.
And, in July.
July. Yeah.
And, that was my dad's promise.
We rented the house for 12, 13 years.
A long time.
Until the landlords finally decided they were going to sell it, and we had first opportunity.
So, we're going to jump on it, buying a house in this economy. It was difficult, so when we were offered that, we're going to take it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but anyway, so it was Heather at the food pantry that, you would think I would have thought of for Pete's Sake, but under the mental stress that we were going through with all this, I never even thought of that.
Yeah.
So I have to give a shout out for Heather, being the spokesperson that she is to get help for people, not only with food, but other financial need help.
Yeah.
In the River Valley School District, for Pete's Sake. Todd, certainly this is, you brought in two great examples of people from your community in need and where For Pete's Sake stepped up.
Well, I hope it gives people a better understanding of why we have a day in the park and why it's important to come out and help if you're able to. So that'll be this Sunday.
And lots of things going on. I'm curious about.
We've got activities to rum walk, pickleball, bike ride. So that all starts between 8 and 9 o'clock in the morning. There's going to be bands from 11 o'clock until 7, a mixture of jazz and folk and things. So pretty mellow, very family friendly. We've got a silent auction with some incredible stuff in it. There's 5 one-week stays at Captiva Island, with which is $3,000 value, but you're staying at a timeshare where they've donated it for 1 week at a time. So we've got a $700 minimum bid. So that's a nice break for people if they don't enjoy shoveling snow here in Wisconsin. But you can go to our website and check all of that out at 4PeteSake.com.
A cakewalk? You got a cakewalk going on?
We have a cakewalk this year. Indeed, we do. Yep. I try to stay away from that. So diabetes makes you feel different about sugar.
Yeah, it's probably true. But a lot of good stuff going on, and all goes for the cause, doesn't it? So, yeah, Sunday coming up. Troy, anything you'd like to add? You've been listening to the conversation here today. Anything you'd like to say about 4Pete's Sake?
Just, again, thank you. I mean, anybody that's out there, if you are running through some difficulties, I would give a shout out to you for Pete's sake.
Indeed. And Irene and Michael, anything else you'd like to add?
Same thing.
Yes.
For Pete's sake, was able to help us until we got our financial straightened out. And then I went back to Todd and I said, Todd, we're okay now. Todd was like, are you sure? And,
Yeah. Just doubling down.
Yeah, they said, we'll make a commitment to you. I think it was for a year, is what you said, and that was when Steve was alive, because we didn't know what we were facing at the time. But I just said to Todd, I said, no, we've got it all worked out. We're going to be okay. Just give the money to somebody else now. It's time to pay it forward again.
Back on your feet.
Yep.
You're going to be at the event?
Oh, yes.
On Sunday?
Absolutely. Yeah. Michael's going to be serving up custard and, or not custard, ice cream.
Yeah,
and the Sunday
I
bar.
work at Culver's, but I'll be destroying that stand. I'll be scooping as fast as I humanly can.
He's a pro.
Look forward to that. Troy, are you going to attend on Sunday as well?
Yes, I am. Actually, I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah.
I really am.
Big celebration, isn't it?
I just hope it's not too hot or too miserable. I found out I can't handle the heat like I used to.
No.
Just give it 5 minutes, you'll find out how hot it is.
We'll try to give you a good forecast for Sunday.
I hope so.
Todd, thanks for coming in, and thanks for all you do for 4Pete's Sake.
Thank you, Phil.
You bet. And what time does it start again on Sunday?
The activities, the rum walk and everything is 8 o'clock. You can still sign up for all those things beginning at 7:30 at the ball field shelter. But then we'll be down in the big tent by the picnic shelter at the park, and so that mostly kicks in at around 11 o'clock. So
can't miss it. Downtown Spring Green or South Park, right?
Well, North Park.
North Park,
now called Veterans Park, on Google referred to as Municipal Park.
Okay. So, yeah, I'm confused.
So stay on the north end of town.
North end of town in Spring Green. Sunday, be there. Thanks everyone for coming in. It's been wonderful to hear your stories, and good luck to you too.
Thank you very much.
You bet. Irene and Michael Hilston and Troy Vanderheiden, along with Todd Miller, talking about a day in the park for 4Pete's Sake.